Who you be for that body? Come out for here now!
No! No! Go!
Gather close. Because what I am about to tell you is not the kind of story you share in a loud room. This is a quiet story. A cold story. The kind that starts with something beautiful and ends with you questioning every relationship you have ever been in. My people, before we begin, I want you to do something for me. Think of the last person you loved. Think of how they made you feel seen. How their presence in a room changed the temperature of everything around you. Now imagine you found out that person had been dead for 6 years before you ever met them. That is not a metaphor. That is the story of Chidi, a young man from Lagos, who fell in love with the most perfect woman he had ever met, and who almost paid for that love with his life. Sit down. Get comfortable. And whatever you do, do not turn off your lights tonight. Lagos, Nigeria. 2019. Not the Lagos you see in the news. Not the Lagos of crowded bus stops and roadside arguments. This was the Lagos of glass and ambition. Victoria Island, where the buildings touched the sky, and the streets smelled of money and salt air from the ocean. The Lagos where young professionals drove clean cars and ate at restaurants with menus that had no prices. Because if you had to ask, you were already in the wrong place. This was Chidi's Lagos. And Chidi had everything a 32-year-old man could want on paper. A good job, a good car, a flat in Lekki Phase 1, colleagues who respected him, a mother in Enugu who was proud of him. But every night, when Chidi turned the key in his front door and stepped into that apartment, the silence hit him like a wall. He would sit in his car sometimes, engine off, for 20, sometimes 30 minutes, before going inside. Not because he was tired, but because going inside meant facing how empty the place was. He wanted someone to come home to. My people. That is a dangerous kind of want. Because the universe hears every prayer. Every single one. It just doesn't always send what you imagined. It was a Thursday. Ordinary, unremarkable Thursday. Chidi had gone to a lounge on Admiralty Way. The kind of place with dim lighting and music that wraps around you like warm smoke. He wasn't even in the mood to be there. A colleague had dragged him out. He was on his second drink, scrolling his phone, thinking about leaving early, when he saw her. She was sitting at the far end of the bar, alone. She wore a white dress, unusual for that kind of place. But on her, it looked like it had been designed specifically for that moment. That room. That light. She wasn't dancing. She wasn't on her phone. She wasn't scanning the room the way people do when they want to be noticed. She was just still. Like the noise of the room didn't reach where she was sitting. Chidi told me. And I want you to hear this. He told me he almost didn't approach her. Something in him hesitated. Not shyness. Not nerves. Something deeper. Something animal. Some old ancient part of him. That recognized. Without being able to name it. That something was not quite right. But then another part of him. The lonely part. The part that had been sitting in parking lots. To avoid an empty apartment, that part walked over anyway. You look like you're waiting for someone, he said. She looked up at him. And he said her eyes were the strangest eyes he had ever seen. Dark. Still. Like looking down into deep water. And not being able to see the bottom. She smiled slowly. I have been waiting, she said. For a very long time. He laughed. He thought it was a line. My people. It was not a line. Her name was Ada. And they talked for 3 hours that night. 3 hours. And Chidi said it felt like 20 minutes. She laughed at his jokes. She finished his sentences. She knew things about him. His fears, his dreams. The way he described loneliness. As if she had been listening to him long before that night. He got her number. He drove home feeling lighter than he had in years. He felt found. He did not yet understand what had found him. They dated for 4 months. And those 4 months. My people, those 4 months were the kind of months that ruin a person. The kind that set a standard so high that everything after feels like settling. Ada moved into his flat by the 2nd month. She cooked. She cleaned. She ironed his shirts before he woke up. She was always there when he came home. Always, no matter how late he returned. She was awake, warm, waiting. She never raised her voice. She never asked for money. She never complained. His friends came over one evening. And when they left, one of them grabbed Chidi by the shoulder outside and said, "Guy, where did you find this woman? Pray for the rest of us." Chidi laughed. He was happy. And happiness. My people, listen to me. Happiness has a way of making you temporarily blind. Because the signs were there. They had always been there. He just didn't want to see them. The first sign. Ada never ate. Not with him. Not that he ever saw. Every meal he set 2 plates. Every time she would say, "Eat fast. I'll eat after." And by the time he was done, she had always already eaten. He told himself, she's watching her weight. Lagos girls, you know how it goes. He moved on. The second sign. Ada was always cold. Her hands. Her skin. On the hottest afternoons in Lekki. When there was no power. And sweat was running down his back. If Ada touched his arm, it was like being touched by someone who had been sitting in front of an air conditioner for hours. He bought her a sweater. She smiled and said thank you. She never wore it. He told himself, some people just run cold. He moved on. The third sign. And this one, my people. This one should have stopped everything. His neighbor. Mama turned. The woman who sold food downstairs. Who knew the name of every person in that compound. Who had seen every girlfriend. Every girlfriend's friend. Every late-night visitor. Mama Tan stopped Chidi in the car park one morning. She looked at him with an expression he had never seen on her face before. Something between concern and fear. Chidi, she said quietly. Who is that woman I keep seeing in your window at night? Chidi smiled. That's my girlfriend. Ada. Mama Tan's face did not change. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, very, very quietly, Chidi. I have lived in this compound for 11 years. I know everyone who comes and goes. In 3 months. I have never seen that woman leave your flat. Not in the morning. Not in the afternoon. Not at night. I have never, not once, seen her outside. Chidi opened his mouth and closed it again. Because he realized, standing in that car park, keys in hand, that he had never taken Ada outside. Not once. Every plan they made. She was tired. Every suggestion he made. Something came up. Every time he said let's go out. There was always a reason to stay in. He drove to work that morning. With a headache he couldn't explain. And a feeling in his chest. Like something cold. Had crawled inside. And sat down. One Saturday. Chidi decided to find out for himself. He told Ada he had a site inspection. Kissed her on the cheek. Said he'd be back by evening. He parked 2 streets away. Walked back. Let himself in through the front door, quietly. Ada was standing at the living room window. Back to him. Arms at her sides. Staring outside. Completely, utterly still. Chidi stood in the doorway. And watched her. 1 minute. 2 minutes. 3. She did not move. She did not shift her weight. She did not reach up to touch her hair. Or turn her head. Or do any of the 1,000 small things a living person does. When they are simply standing somewhere. She stood like a photograph of a woman. Like a very good painting. For minutes. 5. Chidi slammed the door. As if he had just come in. She turned around immediately. Smiled. You're back early. Traffic, he said. He sat across from her that evening. And watched her the way you watch something you cannot yet name. Turning it over in your mind. Looking for the word that fits. That night. He could not sleep. He lay beside her in the darkness. And he listened. No breathing. He held his own breath and listened. With everything he had. Nothing. No rise and fall beside him. No soft sound of air moving in and out. Just silence. He placed his hand very gently on her chest. Nothing moved beneath his palm. He snatched his hand back. Ada's eyes opened. She looked at him in the dark, those still, deep eyes, and said softly, "Chidi, why are you afraid of me?" He said nothing. She said, "I love you. I have loved you for a very long time. Before you even knew my name. Before he knew her name." He lay still until morning, staring at the ceiling, not sleeping, not speaking, counting the hours until he could get out of that flat and call the one person he knew would not think he was mad. He called Emeka. They had been friends since primary school. The one they all teased for being too serious, too spiritual, always praying, always seeing meaning in things others dismissed. Chidi called him from his car, down the street from his flat. He told Emeka everything, every sign he had ignored. The cold skin, the stillness, the breathing, the window. Emeka listened without interrupting. When Chidi finished, there was a long silence on the line. Then Emeka said, "Send me her picture." Chidi sent it. He sat in the car, watching the clock. 7 minutes. 12. 18. His phone rang. He picked up. And Emeka's voice. The voice of a man who had known Chidi for over 20 years. Who had always been steady. Always been calm. That voice was different now. Stripped. Careful. The way a person speaks when they are trying not to cause panic. "Chidi," he said, "I know this woman." Silence. "Her name is Adiz Okafor. She died in a car accident on 3rd Mainland Bridge in 2013. I attended her burial, Chidi. I knew her brother. The world outside the car kept moving. A Bolt driver arguing on his phone. A hawker tapping his window with bottled water. Normal Lagos. Ordinary Thursday Lagos. "That's not possible," Chidi whispered. "She is in my flat right now." "I know," Emeka said. "And Chidi, listen to me. She is not there because she is evil. She is there because she is lonely. She is incomplete. She wants what she never finished." But Chidi, when a spirit gets lonely enough, they stop visiting. They start keeping. Chidi drove back to the flat. Ada was in the kitchen, humming the same slow song she always hummed. Old, wordless. Something that didn't belong to any era Chidi could name. He stood in the doorway and looked at her properly. For the first time. The afternoon sun was coming through the window. Golden and heavy. It fell across the counter. Across the pots. Across the tile floor. Where Ada stood. There was no shadow. Not even a faint outline. The light passed through her like she was made of smoke. wearing the shape of a woman. Ada, he said. She turned around. And she already knew. He could see it in her face. The soft resignation of someone who has been waiting for a specific moment and has finally watched it arrive. You already know, she said. Adiz, he said. He used her full name. Without thinking. It felt necessary. Like naming something. Takes back some of the power it has over you. Something moved across her face. Pain. Old grief. The grief of someone who has been carrying something for a very long time with no one to help them set it down. I didn't want to scare you, she said. Her voice was quiet. Honest in a way it had never quite been before. I just wanted a life. The one I didn't finish. I was 26, Chidi. 26. I never got married. I never had a home that was mine. I just wanted to know what it felt like to cook for someone. To be waited for. To be chosen. And Chidi. God help him. Chidi felt sorry for her. For one moment. Standing in that kitchen. With the shadowless sunlight all around her. He felt the grief of what she was saying. Like a weight on his own chest. And then she said. I was going to tell you. After the wedding. I had already planned it. Small. Just the two of us. And after the vows. She paused. Looked at him with those still, deep eyes. You wouldn't have needed to go back outside either. The kitchen dropped 10 degrees. She had not come for love. She had come for company. Permanent company. Emeka arrived 20 minutes later. I will not tell you everything that happened in that flat. Some things are not mine to describe. Some things, once described, take up residence in the mind of the listener. And will not leave. What I will tell you is this. Ada screamed when Emeka came through the door. Not the way a person screams. Underneath a person screaming. A sound that came from somewhere older than language. Older than Lagos. Older than any building on that street. The kind of sound that makes your back teeth ache. She looked at Chidi one final time. Her eyes were not angry. That was the part that stayed with him longest. She was not angry. She was just sad. You would have been happy, she said. I would have made you happy, Chidi. And the room went cold all at once like stepping into a freezer, and then she was gone. Just gone. The white dress was on the kitchen floor. The food on the stove was spoiled. Gray and old. Like it had been sitting there for days. The flat was empty in a way it had never been empty before. Not the comfortable emptiness of a place to yourself. The hollow emptiness of a place that has been held by something that should not have been there and has finally let go. Chidi sat on his kitchen floor. Emeka sat beside him. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Sometimes silence is the only appropriate response to the things life shows you. My people, hear me. Loneliness is one of the most powerful forces. a human being can carry. It distorts things. It makes you negotiate with your own instincts. It makes you so hungry for warmth that you stop checking where the warmth is coming from. Adiz was not a monster. She was a soul who did not get to finish her story and wanted so desperately to continue it that she reached across the boundary between worlds to steal someone else's. That is not love. Real love does not hide. Real love does not keep you indoors. Real love does not ask you to give up your shadow in exchange for its warmth. Pay attention to the people in your life who only exist in private, who you have never seen in sunlight, who are always warm to you but cold to the touch. Pay attention to the love that feels too perfect, too complete, too convenient. The love that appears exactly when you are most desperate to be found. Because not everything that answers a prayer comes from the place you think. And not everything that wears the face of love is alive. My people, if this story held you, if you forgot to breathe somewhere in the middle of it, then you already know this is your home. This channel exists for stories like this one. Stories with weight. Stories with roots. African folktales. Dressed in the clothes of today. Set in our cities. Carrying our names. Speaking our truths. Subscribe. Right now. The button is right there and it costs you nothing. Turn on your notification bell. Because the next story is already coming. And I promise you, you do not want to miss it. And leave me a comment. Tell me, which moment made your skin crawl? Was it when he noticed she cast no shadow? Was it when he placed his hand on her chest and felt nothing? Or was it those last words she said? You wouldn't have needed to go back outside either. Tell me. I read every single one. Until the next story. Stay safe. Stay wise. And remember, the most dangerous thing in this world is not a ghost. It is loneliness so deep that you stop asking questions about the hands that reach out to feel it. Good night, my people.